welcome to the Geeksphere special edition, the E3 special, something the team here will be looking forward all day to get out to you. I'm your host, Bradley Burrows. I've got the gorgeous Skip Parker.
Gorgeous?
Voluptuous.
I'm voluptuous. Hey, whoa there, Tiger. Hey, I'm really excited about this episode, I really am.
And of course, next to me, Craig Brock. It's lovely to have you on the show, my friend.
I'm bursting with glee.
You're bursting with glee. All right, so we're going to cover off the gaming news that came out from E3, which really was an overload or an overdose of gaming information.
Yep.
Now, we're going to cover off the two heavy hitters tonight, Sony and Microsoft, which really went out and talked about the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Yep.
Now, before we get into this too much, let's frame it. We're going to do Sony first.
Yep.
So let's set the scene with what Sony started off with on the way they kicked off their E3 special. Okay, so that was Sony kicking off their event, an amazing set to get things up and going for E3.
I'm gonna throw this out there. I think Sony nailed the presentation side of things. The wraparound screen for the audience, it must have been amazing to be in that room.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about the way they kicked it off? Were you excited? Were you sitting there going, wow?
I must admit, yes, I was in high anticipation of what they were going to say and present. Everyone was expecting some big announcements, which they did do, and absolutely the stage looked just amazing. It was just like main screen in the middle, massive wraparound as you saw from the video.
Yeah. There was one thing I was going to say is that they came out punching on the game level, right? So basically the wraparound screen showed, here we are, we're Sony, we're PlayStation, we're about games, and they just basically threw up a montage of the big hitting games that they brought. And it just brought back memories of, actually, these guys are a major game player.
Now, one of the things that they didn't do a few weeks ago was show us what the console looked like. Tell me, guys, did they show us what the console looked like?
It's a trapezoid.
So, for our viewers out there, do we have a screenshot of all these things? So this is the new PS4 console, is this correct?
Yes, it is.
Thoughts?
Look, the thing that was really funny is I was trying to keep track of a few things in the afternoon at work, and I went back into the presentation halfway through and found sort of the live blogs and thought, oh, they'll have a picture of the console. It wasn't until the very end that they released the console, which is kind of strange, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it came out and I just thought, you know what? Who cares? It's a PlayStation.
Okay. Thoughts from you?
I was a bit underwhelmed personally. I must admit it's better than the PS3 that looks like a George Foreman grill.
Yeah,
true. Because nothing can sit on the top of that, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's made out of that shiny plastic that, well, at least the original ones, where the newer ones have come out, have got the better plastic on it that doesn't finger mark. But if you've got the original one like I do from release, yes, it's still going. Everything sticks to it.
Okay, so this is going to retail for $3.99 USD, $6.49 on mighty8.co.nz here in New Zealand at the moment. Pre-orders are up and running for that site, so it's a pretty good price.
It's a great price, and as we'll see later on, they actually undercut Xbox on this one, which is a good move, really.
But let's discuss that, so we'll go there in the opinion piece. Now, I suppose the thing about E3, it's a gaming event, right? It's all about the games, it's all about the gaming developers coming off, showing their wares. Guys, I'm going to bounce back and forth with you quick here. Give us some of the games that came out from the Sony camp.
Okay, so two hats here. The Last of Us is a big game that's being promoted at the moment. They brought that out as a big game hitter. The Last of Us is a zombie genre game. It is very stunning. We have a video clip of it running, so let's have a quick look at that clip now.
We won't get another shot at this. I want Joel to watch over her.
What on earth do the Fireflies want with you?
We ain't talking about some walk in the park here.
They're coming.
I know!
At least they're predictable. It's the normal people that scare me.
Get a move on.
Now, the thing about this game is, here's my second hat, GameGuide.co.nz, which is our sister site, is giving away some copies to this game. So jump along to GameGuide.co.nz and I think it's basically just answer a question and you're in to win.
You know what we'll do? We'll embed the link to this video site on the Geeksphere website to
probably
our sister
just
site.
down there somewhere.
Yep, hopefully if our nice director does it right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Craig, from your thoughts, Destiny is one that you and I have chatted about a little bit. You've tried to explain to me this whole immersive thing. Give us a blurb around what Destiny is and why you're sort of getting quite excited about it.
So it is essentially an MMO based on Halo, I guess is one way you could say it.
Well, it is from the Halo creators, right? So
Correct.
it does have that sort of
Halo
history.
look and feel.
Yep.
Does it have an ending? This is the one thing I keep getting confused. Tell me, does this game have an ending? Because I've heard stories of something like 10,000 hours of gameplay or something silly like that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what they say. There's so many different ways you can skin the cat. There's so many paths to take, and they say it's something like you could do 10,000 hours.
Would you buy this game?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Now, the one thing you like about this, you picked this up, was around something to do with a special edition or something.
Yeah, now Sony were the only console makers to actually have this as a part of their keynote.
Yeah.
And the main reason is that they apparently have some, and I'm saying this in quotations, a partnership with Activision on this game, on this particular title. Now, we're not sure what that is because they kind of just left that hanging there and walked away from it. Now, Destiny wasn't mentioned at all with the Xbox launch or anywhere really much else. So it is interesting to see that Bungie are really sort of backing the PlayStation here a lot more publicly anyway. So I'm intrigued. I mean, this possibly is a game changer for me in terms of what console I'll go to.
But Destiny, from the pre-notes, we know is going to be on the Xbox One, it's going to be on the PS4, and you were saying it's going to be on the PC, Craig?
Yeah, well, that's you'd have to guess it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, you're a huge car nut.
Yes.
Right, so the next one, Drive Club.
It looks good, I am excited about it, and I understand it's a game that you're going to get as part of PlayStation Plus membership if you've got it at day one. Very little details. I saw an interview with the creators of it on GameTrailers.com. They couldn't really give a lot of information or some lots of detail of what it's about. So I'm a bit thin on the ground at the moment. It looks great, but it could be suffering from not that great as a racing sim. It looks like it's going to be more of a MMO almost.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was a distinct lack of real car racing games coming for the PlayStation 4 that I saw. Now I'm expecting Gran Turismo because that's PlayStation. When I think game,
That's your bread and butter, right?
yeah. Well, when I think car racing games on the PlayStation, I'm thinking GT. But there didn't seem to be any announcement around GT for the PlayStation 4. There was talk about GT for the PlayStation 3. So it's an interesting change, and maybe it's just a transitional period we've got to get used to on this whole thing. So.
Right, now, Craig mentioned this and it's a good segue. The PlayStation Plus Pass. I don't want to do a comparison to the other consoles. I want you to tell me, for the listeners out there, what the PlayStation Plus Pass is, please.
Okay, so...
And why it's important for PlayStation 4.
It's important for one very specific reason, multiplayer.
And for why? Talk to me.
So apparently the concept that Sony are bringing out is that if you want to play multiplayer online, you're going to have to pay for the PlayStation Network Pass or Plus Pass.
Okay.
So that's something a little bit new, because you could do multiplayer before on the PlayStation Network without having to pay anything. It kind of moves more in line with the Xbox Gold Pass model as well, because I think Xbox Gold playing multiplayer as well is the whole thing there. So it's an interesting change for Sony on that one. And
their explanation is that they want to take that funds that they're going to get from the membership and put it back into the PlayStation Network, because you could argue that the Xbox Network, Xbox Live Network's a leap years ahead of the PlayStation.
Because they've had the funds to keep up building.
You've had Xbox Gold membership for years. I'm sure that doesn't make everyone happy, but they have given a whole bunch of free stuff and additional stuff, much like Xbox are doing as well.
Okay, now, moving along quickly, guys. Backward compatibility with old games. How is the Sony PS4 addressing this? Craig, 1 minute from you, then I'm going to chuck the skip.
So they're touting Gaikai, which is their virtual streaming of apps, or should I say games.
Okay.
And that's meant to be on PS Vita, PS4, so you can play your old games.
Okay. Now, pros and cons of it from your side.
You got to have an internet connection.
Right.
I mean, you're basically playing games in the cloud.
Streaming.
Streaming is a big thing, so your internet connection's got to be up for the task, which shouldn't be too hard to manage that. Of course, we haven't seen it yet, so it's not actually something that's working. It's not publicly available, and I've seen rumours of sort of 2014 when we might see that online. So in terms of launch date, this isn't going to be available. So your PlayStation 3 games won't play on the PlayStation 4 on day one, but what they promise you is if you have PlayStation 3 games, you'll be able to play them on the PlayStation 4 through the Gaikai service.
When it becomes available.
When it becomes available. I'm not sure if that includes an extra cost. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what happens.
All right, now before we talk about launch dates, I want to cover off more of an area where I'm interested in these consoles, is around the media side of things. So I like the games, but I'm actually really looking for a console that can replace a lot of other devices in my house in there. Now, with the media side of things, Sony rolled out Sony Movies.
Yes.
And they also announced Netflix, which a lot of the other platforms have had for a while, whether you be from the Apple, Microsoft, Netflix, from the Roku world. What do they sort of bring to us from a media side of things? Because they haven't talked too much about this.
Yeah, it's interesting because Sony are a vast company. They do everything, right? And the thing that's really surprised me is they haven't really taken on the Sony Pictures side of things too much into this product until now. And so now they're bringing the Sony Pictures stuff in, so you'll be able to watch your Breaking Bad episodes and that sort of thing on the device, which is quite good. The question's going to be around regional lock on that one. Will it be available globally, or will it just be a US market-centric thing? So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Now, the confirmed PS4 is region unlocked for any games. Is that correct from what you've heard?
Correct, yep.
Which is going to be a great feature for people just buying any games in the world, which has been a bit of a pain in the butt, to put it frankly, from a lot of other countries for buying things.
Yeah, so if you buy, for example, the 360, you could buy it from the States, but you then had to buy games that were from the States as well, which could be challenging.
Cool. And from the media side of things, is that of interest to you, or are you not really that fussed on it?
I absolutely am. So I have, I think I talked about it before, but we talked about replacing, or the need for an HT-PC or a media PC.
Yep.
I'd like to see where both of these add that value. So we also should mention the Sony Music part of that they've brought out this round as well.
So what is it?
Well, so just like Xbox Music, they've got the same thing. They've partnered up with their own companies, and so
that's very smart.
Funnily enough, so it's the same. It's the same thing as their Sony movie or not Netflix. Same with their Sony movies. They get access to all their music and what have you, much as you do on the Xbox Music at the moment, if you've already seen it.
Cool. Now, release dates. Give me a date when I can go out and buy this thing. Give me a date. I don't want a pre-order, I want a date.
Okay, so the official press release from a New Zealand standpoint is Christmas.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is, in the States, they're saying the holiday period. Now, people are saying in the States it's a bit of a concern because the holiday period starts just before Christmas and goes for quite a few months afterwards. So there is a question about whether this is going to slip past the Christmas time. Look, if I was in Sony's boots, I would just aim to get it to... It's got to be on the shelf for Christmas. So I'm picking it's going to be beginning of December. We'll see it.
Okay, so again, recapping for New Zealand customers, Mighty Ape have got it right now, $649. You can pre-order there at the moment. And we'll discuss the optional extras from where to get it. Let's do that at the end. Okay, now, moving along to the Microsoft side of things.
Yep.
Right, it's called the Xbox One. One console to rule them all type of mentality.
Xbox One.
Cool. Now, how did the Xbox team kick off compared... Xbox went first in the morning, so you got to look at this. You got up at 4 in the morning like a madman.
Yes.
How did they kick off from a set? What did you guys think? Different style, but give me some feedback. I'll start with you, Craig.
Yeah, look, I like the set, and that obviously was the first one I saw. What did I like? The key speakers tend to... I found the speakers were better. I'm just going into the presentation-wise now, but... So look, they kicked straight into massive amounts of games. They went game, which because they obviously got nailed over their first presentation a few weeks ago. There was lots of kickback saying it was too much media-centric, TV-centric. So they just went straight for the jugular, went into the big games and carried through.
What are your thoughts about it?
Again, early in the morning, so it looked great. Actually, we've got a intro clip of what it looked like from an audience perspective. And they kicked into Metal Gear Solid 5 straight up on the piece. Let's have a quick look at that clip.
To the 2013 Xbox Global Media Briefing.
It's not just them. The whole world wants you dead. You'll have to join up with Miller. Build that private army of yours one more time. First, we need to save Miller. He's in Afghanistan. You're a legend in the eyes of those who live on the battlefield. That's why you have to handle this mission yourself. That's how Kaz would want it. Afghanistan is a big place. I expect you'll become quite familiar with those binoculars as you plan your next move. How and where you make it, well, that's up to you. Now go! And let the legend come back to life.
So that's the thing that surprised me the most, is they actually spent quite a lot of time looking at Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yep.
A little bit Red Dead Redemption, to my liking. You know, horses, desert, land, country, free, open reign, that sort of stuff. But it looked quite cool. It looked very cool, and there is a lot of depth in that game. If you're a Metal Gear Solid fan, you would have just loved it, and there was huge cheers in the crowd. I thought their presentation was pretty good overall. They had a few major glitches, and fortunately there was one for Battlefield. I mean, it's demos, so it's going to happen, but it's kind of that awkward live moment.
But
when
both sides had glitches, right?
They both had glitches, right. Yeah. I just felt sorry for the Battlefield guy because he had a fantastic game, and he basically wasn't. He was going to leave if it wasn't going to run. So poor guy.
Did they float up a McLaren or something as part of the set? I mean,
it was great. I mean, it was a great presentation. It was well paced and well timed, apart from the few glitches. And it was games. The interesting thing is they kicked off and talked about the Xbox 360 first. So the surprising thing is you think, hey, new Xbox, throw out the old. Microsoft aren't doing that. They're refreshing the Xbox 360 experience. Yep. And they are actually still developing games and releasing games for the 360. So that's great for those that want to stick on the old platform.
What are your thoughts on the new 360 that's going to come out before the Xbox One? So between June and I think we'll talk about the date of when it's going to release. I'm going to hold that one back for a moment. They're going to put another 360 into the market. We don't know the price of that just yet, do we?
No.
So what are your thoughts? It's smaller, lighter, just a nicer environment. Would you look at buying one?
I think there's going to be a market there for it. So there'll be families or people that have been holding off for a good price, or they want an Xbox. They're not necessarily interested in the next gen because they're just happy with what's currently out there. So yeah, I think there'll be much like they did it with the old model as well before the Slim came out.
Yeah.
They come out with special editions. They come out with the best edition. What I think they'll do is bundle it with heaps of stuff, and they'll just go, here's a Kinect, here's a whatever, GTA 4 or something like that. They'll just put out these wonderful editions where you get really good value for money.
Yep.
And it's a good way of getting all the old stock off the shelves.
Now, I'm going to hold back the price discussion. Let's get into the games, and we'll do the price and the release date together. Right, games. Now, Segway, they raised up a beautiful McLaren because they're showing off Forza 5. Car Nut, talk to me. Any good?
The McLaren was amazing.
It looks so real.
But when they cut to the actual in-game engine and they had the exact car there that they'd modelled, you'd swear you were looking at the same car.
Did you notice the detail? I mean, okay, we're talking about semantics here, but the detailing on the panel work, you could see each pit in the paint, and that was in-game play. I mean, I'm like, are you serious? This is just ridiculous now. I'm
a Forza fan, and I love playing the Forza games. And I'm not as I don't care about too much around the physics. I just want the gameplay to be entertaining.
Right.
This thing looked cool. I mean, it looked really good for, I suppose, a dummy like me to play.
So as a full-on car racing nut and a fan, I was disappointed that we only got essentially a pre-played video, right? And okay, it was all done in engine and what have you, and it looks amazing. I prefer to see people playing the game and showing the physics and the sound and all of that.
Yep.
And I must admit, talking about car games, the PlayStation as well with their GT5 that's coming out, they did the same thing. I mean, it looks great. They play the cars coming past them, almost like a replay and what have you. We don't want to see that. Well, I don't think us gamers want to see that. We want to see people playing it. So that's where we get our real kicks out of it. But that's just me.
Now, I just want to question you, because you are the car nut of the group here. There's one feature that blew my mind away, which is a cloud service feature called Drivatar.
Yeah.
So the idea is I'm playing and the device is learning about how I drive past and do reckless moves and drive into brick walls, that sort of thing. It learns about who I am, and it starts building up an AI character based on my racing profile.
Gotcha.
So that Drivatar, then you can race against yourself, or you could leave it up there on the cloud for your friends to race against it. So, Craig can't get hold of me, I'm working, but he would like to race against me. So he raced against my virtual AI character, my Drivatar.
Correct.
And I thought that is actually a very slick idea.
Okay, but cool, I get to race against Craig, but if Craig beats me, does he get anything out of it? Is there any value in him investing time on that?
The best part is if he beats me, he gets points, but if my Drivatar beats him, I get the points, and I'm not even playing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, moving along quickly now. Titanfall, Skip, give me a brief on what Titanfall is.
It's just awesome. I'm sorry, I saw Titanfall for the first time and I thought, this is a fantastic looking game.
Skip and I were IMing each other going, oh my God.
Yeah, it was lots of did you see that? Did you see that? Literally, it is a very stunning first person shooter game. It's kind of like Battlefield and Mech Warriors in one.
So I heard about this game from you.
Yeah, it's really cool because it's quite a wide immersive environment. There's a lot going on. The detail is very clever. I can see myself playing this for hours.
Are you just...
Oh, it's just... There was just one of those games where you first watch it, and it's like when I first watched, I think, Battlefield 3, and it was probably the last game I think of where I've just watched someone playing the game and I've just gone, no way. So the same thing, there's guys running around, there's these massive mech warriors running around, and they're not just like lumbering giants, they're like literally running around like Transformers type thing, and there's dudes inside them, right?
Yeah.
So, and then they're like, you watch as you're a guy, and it picks you up in the hand and slots you inside that, and it's seamless as you come through. You have to watch the video. It looks fantastic. Then the three sort of slides come out, and they go from metal into you can see outside, and you've got a HUD that comes up. It's just like, wow.
All right, we're going to have to put that game up on the Geeksphere website, guys. Just promise me that one. All right, so that was Titanfall. Now, Skip, tell me about Rise.
Rise was actually, it was one of the first big games that we saw that really took my breath away in the Xbox presentation. So you're basically a Roman legionnaire, and they show this basically a beachfront landing, and you're racing up with your squad. It's frantic. It is the most frantic intro to a game. So you're kind of used to playing a game where you're one-on-one with people on the battlefield, maybe one-on-two, but everyone's having a go at you, and there's objects coming from each angle, and it really shows the power of this new generation of console, right? The detail was phenomenal, and I just think this game is going to be absolutely exquisite just to play the whole way through. So Rise, it is a very stunning looking game. I cannot speak.
Your thoughts?
I'm with you. I was sitting there, whatever time it was in the morning, going, "What? Really?" It was just, it was almost a Titanfall moment. But certainly think the movie 300. This is Sparta.
Yes.
And you're running up there. You've got dudes. You're hiding behind your shields. But the fighting, it was the fighting, the dynamic combat was much like God of War, where you had press X now and he does some awful move to somebody. But it was more than that. It was quite expansive. It looked fantastic, and it's absolutely going to be on the Christmas list, that's for sure.
Okay, now Microsoft also announced some key changes, additions to their Gold membership program. This is their ability for Xbox Live to have facilities where you can get access to apps, to movie services, but also be able to obviously have the multiplayer and buy your games and everything.
Yep.
Sort of what are the key changes with the Xbox Live subscription, Craig?
So my understanding is they're doing much like PlayStation Network are doing now, where you get what PlayStation calls your instant game collection. Okay. So you'll get free games every month. They've just announced it today in the media today, or at least in New Zealand anyway, that with your existing Xbox Live membership, from now onwards, you'll be getting 2 free games a month.
And that's for the Gold version, isn't it?
Gold membership. And my understanding is everything will transfer over when you go to Xbox One. And so my understanding is you get the whole bunch of free games, which you don't do currently.
Yep.
That's one of them.
And I think the rules around memberships within families, so you can share your Gold membership with your family members.
Very cool.
That is very cool, considering that, I have to let my son play on my Gold account because it's the only way you can play some of the online games, right? Otherwise, I have to pay for another license.
Which is what I do at the moment.
Yep, and so I don't want to spend all my money on license. I'd rather play it on games.
Yep.
It's a great idea for families and multiple devices in the house. It's a good tidy up. It's a great tidy up.
All right, the elephant in the room. I've been holding back on this one. First one, the price. Craig, what did the Xbox One come in at from a price perspective?
$749 New Zealand dollars.
Yep.
I can't remember what that is in US
dollars.
$4.99.
Yeah.
Yep.
So keep in mind that includes the new high def Connect and a single control.
And obviously with this you get all the Skype and video conferencing and yada yada yada.
Yep.
We're going to cover that in the final words part of this segment, where we actually break it down to how we get it through. Now they actually gave us a date of when the Xbox One is going to be available in New Zealand.
November
12th.
Awesome.
November is going to be a good time.
It is very good.
Yeah, so it's interesting they actually have set a solid date on that one. So, nothing's set in concrete till it's on the shelves, right?
No.
So, but
right.
it's going to be interesting end of the year for sure.
Okay, now we're going to try and wrap this up now because we've got a lot more to get through here. I want to go through to where the goods and the bads and the final words of what went well and what didn't go well. I'm going to throw to you, Skip, around Sony and game sharing.
Okay, yeah, so there's been obviously the holy war between PlayStationites and Xboxites about the idea of sharing games. Mm-hmm. And to Sony's credit, their marketing department put together quite a clever little short video clip just to explain that whole situation. Let's have a look at that now.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
PlayStation.
So, Craig, what are your thoughts on that one?
That's hilarious. when I first saw that, I must have been a laugh. Let's dive into that a little bit. So, we were all expecting Sony to jump on the whole Microsoft stopping us sharing our games and not allowed to play it on other consoles and all that type of talk. And that's exactly what they did. maybe 3/4 of the way, almost near the end of their presentation, they went, and we're not going to stop you guys from sharing your games, and we like how it is. And yeah, it was actually quite cool. I remember standing up going, wow, they did it.
They did it.
I wasn't expecting it because my take on it was, I don't believe that Microsoft would make that type of decision without that being a gaming industry-wide decision.
Right.
Because why would you? Because you're kind of alienating a bunch of your people. Anyway, that video was fantastic.
Is there anything else around this that we need to be aware of?
Now, yeah, there's a little bit of post on this one actually. The conversation has now turned to say, look, Sony aren't putting any restrictions on this, but an exec has confirmed that it doesn't stop game developers from imposing that concept.
That's right.
So Activision or Ubisoft or whoever might say, you know what, actually you do need to have a second code to play multiplayer online if you have a second game, as a second-hand game. So it's interesting because I think Sony have come out as the friend of the gamer and left it to the games industry to be the bad guy.
Gotcha.
Whereas potentially Microsoft are taking the hit up front to protect the developers. I mean, who knows? But it is interesting because Microsoft's gone from one side being open to being restricted, and Sony's gone from being restricted to being open.
Yep.
So it's just change of fortunes, I guess. So
okay, now when we talked about the price here, $649 for the PS4, $749 for the Xbox One, but that's not quite apples for apples, is it? To be fair,
this is an interesting debate because yes, the PlayStation doesn't include the PlayStation camera.
Yep.
Now you could put the argument to the table that if you want to do apples to apples, it should include the camera,
which would make it then around the $730 range New Zealand dollars.
But the thing is that the PlayStation does not require the camera to operate, whereas the Xbox does require the Kinect to operate. So it's kind of like you may only use the Kinect for the special features that Microsoft embedded into the Xbox, but for no gameplay whatsoever. Whereas Sony is saying, hey, you may not use the camera at all, we're not going to include it, you can buy it later. So it's kind of tricky to compare the two, I think, to be honest, because the base unit of the console for Sony is the base unit, and for the Xbox it's the base unit and the Kinect. So
your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure we're comparing apples with apples. You could argue that extra $100 is exactly where the Kinect comes in, but hey, it is what it is. I think certainly around the people that I know, I think the people are going to judge their decisions on what titles available to them, the things that they really love.
Point of view that I've heard online quite a bit, if $100 is going to be such a game breaker for you, maybe you shouldn't be buying a console at all.
Well,
then you can't afford it.
But $100 gets me a game, right?
Well, yeah, but hey, if it's going to be that much to you, then maybe you shouldn't be getting
look,
the game.
People have drawn lines in the sand as to which console they're getting now. It doesn't matter about the price.
Let's pause that before we get into the wrapping up. Okay. Covering off Microsoft's lack of clarification. What do you actually mean by that? What is the murky stuff that's still unanswered on the Microsoft side? Craig, I want you to do the Sony side when we go to that stuff.
Okay, so for the Microsoft side for me, and for a lot of people, including some of the journalists at E3, is they really want to get a definitive yes-no answer on a few things. Now, there has been a lot of discussion around game sharing and the always online features of the Xbox. They've been answered on wire.xbox.com, which is sort of the news media thing. But no one has actually come up and really said that publicly in a large keynote type forum or in an interview, for example. So there's still a little bit of doubt as to whether it's going, and it kind of feels like Microsoft are testing the waters a little bit on it, but not really committing to it, and maybe just before the day they launch, they go, you know what, don't worry about it, you can copy games. So there's going to be some interesting, there just needs to be a little bit more detail around what those mean, and I think Microsoft haven't done a great job at E3 to answer those fully.
Cool. On the Sony side, what is unanswered for you right now?
So for me, they didn't show their, and I'm going into a little bit more, they didn't show their box actual running. So you remember the Microsoft event, they showed the console with the
dashboard and everything.
They did a demo and everyone went, wow, they did a demo.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And it worked.
But not on the Sony side.
So the Sony didn't show it. Now there is a video out on the net at the moment that shows a really quick glimpse of their desktop or their dashboard. very different. You could argue it looks like the Windows one.
Oh, no way, not this argument again.
I don't want to wind Brad up anymore when he is iOS 7.
Oh, that's another episode.
But so there's a little snapshot of it, but there was no presentation of it. There was no seeing the box working, and you could argue one of their games froze. But so that's unknown for me. They were very, how do I put it, non-committal about... So that whole game sharing thing to me is still a bit vague to me. So yes, they were great at marketing themselves. They were great at taking the opportunity to stab Microsoft in the back. But coming out afterwards going, but it's up to the publishers whether they want to stop sharing or not. That was a big no-no in my book, but that's just me. What else do they not have? They not shown us? Again...
Cross-platform now, guys. I'll open it up quickly before I move forward.
Look, I think most of the answers have been answered. Well, most of the questions have been answered, right?
Yep.
Yes, the Xbox does play games, and yes, the PlayStation does kick at playing games as well. I think overall they've done a pretty good job between both of them. There is still a little bit of cards being held close to the chest on a few things like DRM and internet access and that sort of stuff, but overall, I think it was a pretty good feel for it. Okay,
now I'm going to so you guys can't cheat when you answer this question. I know all of us are going to buy both versions of the console.
Yeah.
So I'm going to remove it so you can't answer the way you're going to answer.
I'll go this way then.
But the question I'm going to answer you, which console are you going to pre-order first? Because we're all going to get both, so that's out of the question. But which one are you going to pre-order first? I'm going to go to you. Because you're forced to make a decision now versus sitting on the fence like you have been.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm leaning towards the Xbox because my ecosystem at home is very Windows-centric.
Yep. But hold on, does that mean that the PS4 is not Windows-centric?
I don't see the level of integration in the PS4 at this stage that the Xbox offers.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I've got my media center type stuff, the smart glass features I already use.
Yep.
Being able to push a movie from my laptop to the Xbox, that's a great feature for me. I use it a lot. So it's going to be interesting. I may not race into buying a console on launch day, though.
Okay. Sir, for you, which one are you going to pre-order?
I've already pre-ordered the Xbox One.
Well done.
For similar reasons, I can see they've already set up smart glass to work.
Yep.
I've got a Surface, I've got a Windows Phone, I have subscription.
But then people are going to call you a fanboy and not actually. But you have one of everything. Let's be clear.
Yeah, that's right. I've got one of everything, except for a Wii, because.
Yeah, who buys a Wii?
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But essentially, I chose this platform because I could see it was going to be much more mature, and it already has proven that. So I had a PSP years ago. They tried to implement that with the PS3. Mediocre at best. I can see they're trying to do the PS Vita with the PS4 again. They didn't really show that well. Whereas I already know that I can watch HD movies with my family, I can buy them, I can watch them, I can transfer stuff from here, I can do everything that I already want to do, and it's only going to get better.
So for me, I will eventually pre-order the Xbox One. I probably won't do it on release day, but the major reason is not for the games, is that I want to get rid of my media center and all the other devices, and I actually want to have this as my primary device where I can have TV coming into it, where I can hook it into all my SANs in the back end and watching my movies, and then I can play games, enjoy Netflix and everything else.
I think that's more of a legal requirement on your household due to TransPower not being able to supply enough energy to power your stuff.
But for me, that's a critical thing. I want to consolidate things down, and it's like when I'm looking at devices now. When we're testing stuff for Geeksphere, I look at how I can actually get rid of things, not actually have to have more. So that's going to be the primary driver for me. The other key thing is the app ecosystem. For me, on the Xbox One right now, the amount of apps that are going to be available for it, because it is pretty much just Windows 8 as the core system, is going to be huge. And there's going to be some cross-platform stuff there.
I haven't really talked about that either.
No, I've read a little bit online about it, and I'm banking on that one coming through. All right, so Xbox One 2 to a boy sitting on the fence over here, but he'll probably go the Xbox One. But in saying that, we will all get the PS4 as well. So we will have one of everything. And we get obviously a Blu-ray player with the Xbox One now too, which is nice. But before we go, let's have a little talk about some next-gen console stuff.
Look, there's been a lot of debate about the Xbox versus the PlayStation 4. They are almost identically the same hardware, nuts and bolts wise. Maybe one slightly faster, doesn't matter, in my mind anyway. And it's probably started another flame war on comments. But look, at the end of the day, we're into the next generation of console, right?
Yep.
And everyone's kind of expecting it to have better graphics, and they both have better graphics, no doubt about that. But the thing that excited me the most, seeing all the demos, is just the depth in which the games can play. So the classic example is Dead Rising 3, which was demonstrated on the Xbox. Now, Dead Rising 3 is a beautiful open-worlded zombie killer game. You know, there might be a bit of a theme for me. I'm really into the zombie killing.
Never.
Could it get better?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so what they showed in the trailer is just the depth of the game. So you're basically a guy fighting off zombies. Now, previous games you're fighting off, you know, maybe 80 zombies over here or something like that. But the count has been quite low. It hasn't been kind of epidemic. It hasn't been like that.
Unlimited almost.
That Resident Evil feel of overwhelmingness. Until they actually showed the trailer, and it actually shows the guy on top of the roof, and he's looking over a vast city that he can travel anywhere in, pick up anything, do anything to buildings and whatever.
Basically, there's no boundaries where this guy can go.
No, and there's no load times as he gets there. It just endlessly streams.
I think it's the you know, and you'd expect it because we're running with PCs essentially. It's the view distance and how much you can see.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, this really is thousands.
I want to go over there.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's actually also the thousands of zombies. It is actually a zombie horde piling on top of you. So this guy's battling in the backyard here. He knocks over a fence. Oh, there's a stack load of zombies. And he's like, oh my gosh, these zombies. I better get on the roof here because, quite frankly, I'm going to get toasted by zombies. And it's not until he gets on the roof and he starts realising that actually there's more zombies. Yeah. And at that moment I thought, this is the power of the next gen console. PlayStation 4 and Xbox are both the same. The games are going to be so much more immersive.
Yep. Cool. Guys, thank you so much for putting together this special edition. That's it from Geeksphere TV, the E3 special. Hope you enjoyed it. We had a great fun putting this together for you. Now, where can we find all the information on Geeksphere? Go.
So, geeksphere.tv, the website, we actually have an E3 special page up. It's on the menu. So jump along to there and see some of the stuff. We've still got stacks to post up there because there's just so much information on there. We'll try and get that done before the weekend. Now, we've also got Twitter. You can follow us Geeksphere at Geeksphere TV. We're on Facebook and Google+, Geeksphere TV, to search for us. We're there. Brad? At Brad Bohr. Craig?
At Bulldog NZ.
And I'm at Urban Kiwi NZ. Man, this has been a blast.
Been fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Hope you enjoyed the E3. See ya. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.